was an absolute dream.
Did you know that Leah Thompson trained as a professional ballet dancer before she ever stepped onto a film set? Or that after surviving the disaster that was Howard the Duck, she became one of the most reliable leading ladies of the 80s, and later reinvented herself as a successful TV director? For many, she'll always be remembered as Lorraine McFly, but there's a lot more to Leah Thompson than time travel awkwardness. From cult classics like Red Dawn to sitcom stardom in the 90s, she's had a career full of pivots, surprises, and comebacks. Today we're going to take a look back at the rise, the detours, and the evolution of Leah Thompson and what she's been doing since Hollywood's spotlight shifted. Let's fade to black. Leah Thompson was born on May 31st, 1961 in Rochester, Minnesota, the youngest of 5 children in a tight-knit Catholic family. From a young age, Thompson was drawn to performance, but not in front of the camera. Her first love was ballet. She began training seriously as a child and, by her early teens, was dancing with some of the top ballet companies in the country. She studied at the American Ballet Theatre, the San Francisco Ballet, and the Pennsylvania Ballet, and by age 14 she was already performing professionally. In fact, she received scholarships to several prestigious schools and seemed destined for a life on stage. But the ballet world can be unforgiving. Despite her talent and discipline, Thompson was often told by instructors that she didn't have the right body type for a principal dancer. In interviews, she's spoken openly about being rejected from major roles because her physique didn't conform to the rigid standards of the time. It was a painful realization, but also a turning point. Rather than let the rejection define her, she pivoted. In her early 20s, Thompson moved to New York City and began taking acting classes. She took small roles in Burger King commercials and modelled on the side to pay the bills. It wasn't long before casting agents noticed her camera presence, and unlike the world of ballet, Hollywood wasn't about symmetry and perfection, it was about charisma. Her biggest screen debut came in 1983's Jaws 3D. The film was critically mauled, but Thompson made an impression. It was enough to get her noticed by filmmakers looking for a young actress who could balance sweetness, vulnerability, and strength, and in the next few years her career would skyrocket. Leah Thompson had gone from a ballet reject to a rising star in just a few short years, and her next roles would make her one of the most recognisable faces of the 1980s. Leah Thompson's real breakout came in 1983 when she starred opposite Tom Cruise in All the Right Moves. She played Lisa, the high school girlfriend of Cruise's working-class football player. It was a small but emotionally grounded role, and Thompson brought a quiet, lived-in sincerity to the performance. The chemistry between the two actors was palpable, and audiences noticed. Just 1 year later, in 1984, she took a drastic turn from teenage romance to all-out survival in Red Dawn. Playing Erica, one of a group of teens forced to become guerrilla fighters after a Soviet invasion of the United States, Thompson proved she could handle action just as well as drama. Red Dawn became a hit, and its violent, paranoid tone struck a chord with Cold War-era audiences. Thompson, armed with a rifle and grit, became an icon of the era's tough but vulnerable heroines. But it was her next role that would define her legacy, Back to the Future. Cast as Lorraine Baines McFly, Thompson had to do something few actors ever face: convincingly play a shy 1950s teenager, a seductive version of that same teen, and a middle-aged suburban mum, all in the same film. And she nailed it. Lorraine was funny, awkward, flirtatious, and heartfelt all at once. Thompson managed to sell the emotional weirdness of having a crush on your own future son, while still making the character sympathetic. It's a tightrope performance, and she walked it with absolute charm. Back to the Future was a massive hit, and Thompson became an overnight star. She reprised the role in both sequels, once again playing multiple versions of Lorraine across different timelines, older, younger, alternate reality, and everything in between. The Back to the Future trilogy cemented her place in pop culture, of one of the most beloved trilogies in movie history. By the mid-1980s, Leah Thompson had become a household name, but her next film would put her stardom to the test and nearly derail everything. After the success of Back to the Future, Leah Thompson seemed unstoppable. She was young, talented, and had the kind of girl-next-door charm that Hollywood loved. Studios were eager to put her in a leading role, and that led her straight into one of the most infamous flops of the decade, Howard the Duck. Released in 1986 and produced by George Lucas, Howard the Duck was a bizarre blend of sci-fi, comedy, romance, and animatronics, a film about a talking duck from another planet who crash lands on Earth and forms a relationship with a rock singer named Beverly, played by Lea Thompson. To her credit, Thompson gave the role everything she had. She learned to play guitar, performed her own vocals, and fully committed to the strange, genre-bending tone of the film, but no amount of effort could save it. Critics tore the movie apart. Audiences didn't know what to make of it, and the backlash was swift. Howard the Duck bombed at the box office, and almost overnight it became shorthand for Hollywood misfires. Thompson bore the brunt of the fallout. Fair or not, actors in big flops often pay a heavy price, and for a while it seemed like Howard the Duck might derail her momentum entirely. But she didn't disappear. In the late 1980s, Thompson kept working, appearing in a series of comedies and dramas, most notably Some Kind of Wonderful in 1987, written by John Hughes. Playing the magnetic and misunderstood Amanda Jones, Thompson showed a subtler emotional range that reminded audiences why she was more than just a time-travelling mum or a sci-fi punchline. She also turned down some projects that might have changed her trajectory, including a role in Pretty in Pink, which ultimately went to Molly Ringwald. Still, Thompson carved out her own path. By the end of the decade, she was no longer just Lorraine McFly or the girl from Howard the Duck. She was an established actress with a growing resume, and her next reinvention would come not on the big screen, but on network television. As the 1990s began, Lea Thompson's film roles started to slow down, but instead of fading from view, she made a shrewd pivot into television. In 1995, she landed the lead role in the NBC sitcom Caroline in the City. Thompson played Caroline Duffy, a successful cartoonist navigating single life in Manhattan. The show was a hit, running for 4 seasons and making Thompson a familiar face to an entirely new audience. For Gen Xers who grew up with her as Lorraine McFly, it was a full-circle moment. She'd gone from being the crush-worthy girl next door to a grown-up, grounded woman leading a primetime network sitcom. Caroline in the City may not have been edgy or groundbreaking, but it proved that Thompson had staying power and that she could anchor a series with ease. She shadowed directors on the set of Caroline, learning the craft while starring in front of the camera. The behind-the-camera interest would become a major part of her later career. Throughout the 90s and early 2000s, Thompson kept working steadily, from TV movies like The Right to Remain Silent to small guest spots and voice acting. She was working on her own terms, building a long game. By the time Caroline in the City wrapped in 1999, Thompson had proven she could survive the ups and downs of Hollywood, child star, cult favourite, box office flop survivor, and now a credible TV star with directorial ambition. And that quiet momentum would pay off in the next chapter of her career as both a mentor and a filmmaker. By the 2000s, Lea Thompson had fully embraced the idea of reinvention. She was no longer chasing stardom, she was chasing substance, and after years in front of the camera, she began making serious moves behind it. She started small, directing short films, TV episodes, and eventually her own feature debut, The Year of Spectacular Men, which premiered in 2017. The film was a true family affair. It starred her daughters, Madeline and Zoe Deutsch, was written by Madeline and directed by Thompson herself. It wasn't a studio project or a nostalgic cash grab. It was a personal story about post-college anxiety, identity, and the messy reality of adult life, told from a woman's perspective. It received solid reviews and proved that Thompson wasn't just dabbling in directing, she had a clear voice and vision. But long before that debuted, Thompson had already found a new audience, thanks to her role in the hit ABC family drama Switched at Birth. From 2011 to 2017, she played Catherine Kennish, a wealthy mother whose daughter is revealed to have been accidentally swapped at birth with another child. The show tackled everything from class divides to deaf culture, and Thompson's performance helped ground it emotionally. More than that, she directed several episodes of the series, further establishing herself as a double-threat talent in modern television. It's easy to forget just how rare it is for actors from the 80s teen movie boom to stick around, much less thrive in completely new roles decades later. Thompson not only stayed in the game, she evolved. At this point, Lea Thompson had done it all: starlet, sitcom lead, director, mentor, and mum, and she was still going strong. In recent years, she's continued to balance acting, directing, and mentoring with the kind of steady, under-the-radar output that only seasoned pros manage to pull off. She's directed episodes of shows like Mum, Young Sheldon, The Goldbergs, and Stargirl, proving she can adapt to different tones and genres with ease. Her work behind the camera has become one of the most respected parts of her resume. As an actress, she's appeared in smaller films like Little Women in 2018, and she's continued to make guest appearances on television, including a fun spot on The Simpsons, voicing a version of herself in a time travel-themed episode. Thompson is also a regular presence on the convention circuit, particularly for Back to the Future reunions. Alongside Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, and Tom Wilson, she often reflects warmly on her experience making the trilogy and the impact it's had on generations of fans. Unlike some actors who distance themselves from the roles that made them famous, Thompson embraces her past. but she's never let it define her. She's also a vocal supporter of her daughter's careers, particularly Zoe Deutsch, who's become a breakout star in her own right. Rather than competing or clinging to the spotlight, Thompson has shifted into a more reflective, supportive role, not just in her family, but within the industry itself. In interviews, she comes across as grounded, smart, and funny, someone who's navigated Hollywood with grace, humour, and zero illusions about what it means to stay relevant in a business that often forgets its stars once they turn 30. At 64, she's still active, still evolving, and still looking for the next interesting story to tell, whether she's in front of the camera or calling the shots behind it. She may have stepped back, but she's never stopped working. For many fans, she'll always be Lorraine McFly, the heart and humour of the Back to the Future trilogy, but if you look closer, there's an entire body of work that proves she was never just the mum. She was the dream girl in All the Right Moves, the fighter in Red Dawn, the romantic lead in Some Kind of Wonderful, and the scene stealer in dozens of other roles that flew under the radar. More than anything, Lea Thompson represents a kind of grounded success that rarely gets celebrated in Hollywood, the kind that's not built on hype but on staying power. In her personal life, Lea Thompson has been married to director Howard Deutsch since 1989. The two met on the set of Some Kind of Wonderful, and they've been together ever since, one of Hollywood's more enduring partnerships. She might not get the same attention as some of her 80s contemporaries, but that's okay. She managed to balance art, family, and longevity in a business that rarely makes room for all three. For those who followed her journey from SeaWorld to Hill Valley to network sitcoms and indie cinema, it's been one hell of a ride. I release 2 new videos every week. Thank you for watching, and I do really look forward to seeing you all in the next one.